Hey everybody, welcome back to the Danger Planet. Today, we're talking about Mythic Americas.
All Mythic Americas.
Ah. Here we are again, having another brief jaunt down to the state of New Jersey. But it's fine though, because one, we'll talk about how I got there in a second. But hello, Jeffrey. Jeff, say hello to the folks at home.
Hello, it's me.
It's Jeff.
Somehow I keep ending up in this weird planet with weird aliens and brains.
Yeah, it's Jeff. It's Jeff. He's the problem. It's Jeff. I think that's how the Taylor Swift song goes. Is it Taylor Swift?
I have no idea. You're asking the wrong.
It might be Macklemore. I don't know. Look, I don't music. Point is, we're here. We just got back from New Jersey seconds ago, or a couple days ago.
True. You are lying straight to.
All right. Look, they don't know when I recorded this or didn't record this. They could, for all they know, it could be 7:19 p.m. on Wednesday, March 20th.
Oh.
Just to throw a ballpark out there. Not that I was reading that off at the bottom right hand of my computer screen.
Well, no, you weren't, because it's Thursday. But sure.
Did I say Wednesday? I said March 20th. I said March 20th. I didn't say what day it was.
It
is Wednesday, though. Oh, I mean, it is Thursday, though.
Let the record show.
That's not the... I'm cutting all of this. Which of course means I won't cut this. This weekend we were in New Jersey. Hat Michael and I, for those of you, shout out to Hat Michael, he was my traveling companion for this adventure, drove down to Randolph, New Jersey, to Mythicos Entertainment in Randolph, and played some Mythic Americas. Mike and I drove down on the Friday. Jeff joined us Saturday morning because he lives close enough to do that, and we quite frankly do not. We tried it last time we went. I got on a ferry and then took a ferry to Jeff's house, and then Jeff drove the rest of the way. But some result of that was I had to wake up at 3 a.m. to get to a 10 a.m. tournament, and then I was brain dead for the rest of the month.
That's too early.
Yeah, so we didn't do that this time. We went down the night before and stayed at the lovely Extended Stay America, which is my favorite traveling hotel. Shout out to them. Extended Stay, if you're in the comments. I don't know, pay me, I guess? They're not, but it is a good hotel. I do recommend them. They have a little kitchen thing in all the rooms because it's designed for extended stay, and they'll give you pans and stuff so you can cook food. It's pretty rad, and we paid $80 for the room for one night. So
pretty good.
Yeah, buddy. Book through them directly. They do veteran discounts. Now, what were we going there for, Jeff? Do you remember what it was called?
Rise of the Cacique.
Yeah. We had this, which was a tournament. This was the capstone for their league. Yeah. Was that the idea? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I think it's the first official tournament that they've run.
I think ever. Yeah. Legitimate tournament ever. Yeah, I think so. And the prizes were quite frankly insane.
Wow.
We'll get to that in a minute, but so it was 1,000 points. You had to submit a list ahead of time, and I played Maya. Jeff, you played Aztec, yeah?
Yep.
And we'll talk about that, I guess, probably also. But it was pretty standard. The only thing that was a little bit different than I guess I expected is that they set the scenario ahead of time, which, depending in the setup, it's one player chooses which way of they are, whether they're ever living or ever changing, and the other player chooses the main scenario.
Right.
But I don't know that strictly speaking works for a tournament perspective. So,
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think we'll get into this when we talk about our games and stuff, but I do think that hurts some people by not having choices in the scenario, because some armies are just kind of better or worse into certain scenarios. But yeah, I get why they did it.
Yes, shout out to Eric.
And especially this being the first tournament, I get why they did it, just for simplicity's sake, so we could all kind of just get in there and give it a shot.
Yeah, for sure. And I think 1,000 points was a good place to be. I don't know what the time frame is going to look like at bigger tournaments, but we had 2-hour rounds. I was getting most of the way through games. I didn't finish a game at 2 hours. But
no, I think I got to turn 3 in all my games. So
I knew we pretty much knew how the game was going to go, and I think with very little variation after those, in all except for maybe I think in our game, if anything, the score differential would have been wider had we gone later.
Yeah, I think so. Because I was killing a lot of your dudes. Yeah,
in my other 2 games, I think my last game it would have been the same. In my first game, actually, I probably wouldn't have drawn. I think I would have won, but it's hard to tell. Yeah, so interesting stuff. So round one, we played build altars for the gods, which is a scenario where you have to get across the center line to take the capture claim action to build an altar,
Right.
or you can destroy the altar by charging it if it's on your half to score.
Right.
So
And key, it's only you do one or the other
yeah.
because you can only get 1 point per turn.
Yeah. So you get 1 point per turn for a total of 5 points, and then you can get your 2 secondary points for a theoretical cap of 7. It was interesting. So I think this was the round that we played, Jeff. So we and we were locked lists. So let's just talk about lists now. So what did you play from the Aztecs?
So I took my Aztecs. This is kind of the list that I've been working on. I've had some variation with it, but I think this is the list that I like because it's good for kind of any scenario. So I had my High Priest. I took no upgrades on High Priest, so he had 2 bodyguards and he's a magic level 2, but that's it.
He comes at magic level 2? That's wild.
Yeah, he's that's
a spicy boy.
This whole deal. I had a couple of zombie support units, so we had 2 units of 5 bound dead, and then a unit of 9 bound dead. 9 because that's just how the points work out. I had 2 units of Eagle Warriors with slings, 5 each. I had a unit of Hummingbird Warriors, 5 guys. I had 3 Spider Sisters. They just carry another magic slot. And then my big boys were Bounded Marauders, unit of 3, upgraded to an extra health, and dual huge Macoheedles. And I took the IR with an extra wound. 1,000 points even.
Ooh, that's exciting. Yeah, I think in terms of the Tlalocan bound Marauders, like, you're going to have big lads, and there's a lot of options for big lads in this game, whether they're monsters or like the polar bears in Inuit that are beasts technically. I just like it's crazy to me that anyone would ever hire them without buying the extra wound, right? Like,
for sure.
You're spending so many points. It seems like a trivial amount, and maybe that's something they'll change in sort of future list writing. But flexibility is cool. I just I'm never gonna not hire them with the extra wound. Same thing with behemoths. I mean, the IR, I guess, less important because he's literally unkillable in most circumstances. Mm-hmm. We were not playing with a rules change that they plan on implementing, which is 1's always pass, 10's always fail. So unless you're hitting him with strength. 2 or higher, of which there's very few. He literally he can't fail saves. So that's where it's at. So the extra wound on the IR might have been irrelevant because I think against me it would have been relevant, but I didn't go anywhere near the IR. So
yeah, your army is the one that has the most ability to put damage on.
Huge max, do you think?
Interestingly, I played against Tribal Nations. He brought a unit of 3 Sasquatches, and they got him down to 1 health. And I think probably if we played another turn, he would have died, but I still would have won. So
yeah, wild. Okay, so that's what you were running for the Aztec. So I decided to purchase and then paint my army a week before the tournament.
Yeah, smart.
Because I was doing some play testing with the Tribal Nations and I wasn't really digging it. They're not really my playstyle. They're kind of, I would liken the Tribal Nations more to like a Dark Eldar-ish type playstyle. Like if you think back to like 3rd edition 40k. Where they are super hit and run. They're very, very fragile. So they can hit hard, and they're basically their what do you call it? Their tomahawks are great because they have great stats and they're thrown weapons. So you're always getting tomahawking going on. But the whole army is like armor 5, which means that against anything with any amount of strength, they're just dying, and there's nothing you can really do about it. So and they're a little expensive. So they're really lead themselves towards hit and run, and I didn't want to do that for like my first tournament, so I bought my army. So I had my warlord with max complement of Almahanab nobles, and I gave them all huge max. I had an Akin priestess with 1 little Aelish spirit at level 3 because I think, although in a lot of cases magic to me feels kind of like very, I don't want to say weak, right, but like up in the not random either. What's the word I'm looking for? Inconsistent. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of factions that like you're never going to upgrade past 2, or there's no reason to. Like in Inuit, I think you level 2 either way. Tribal Nations, I think, is the same. But with the Maya, all of her spells are gas. Like I want all of the spells and I want access to them. And depending on if I get ever living or ever changing, I think both are good. So I did upgrade her to level 3. I also took 1 unit of Aelish Swarms because they have a ranged attack that gives out Brave Markers, which is super strong. Is the whole if you, especially if you're ever living, the Mayans excel at dealing out Brave Markers in spades. And I took two minimum units of Balam Shapeshifters because they are both humanoid and beast, which means even though they're super fast jaguars, they can still interact with all the strategies at the moment. And they're kind of fragile, but they've dodged and they're really fast boys. They're move 8 when they're in jaguar form, you know. I didn't bother with any range stuff, and then literally every other point that I could spend in my entire list was units of Almahanov nobles with huge Macaweedles. That's what I'm about. I really want to have huge Macaweedles, and I think I bought 34 of them or 33 of them. 30 plus however many come with the warlord.
Carry a big stick.
Yeah, buddy. Big sticks win army. Bigger stick diplomacy, if you will. Which I came in second, so it's fine. Jeff won with Aztecs, and so that was presumably Jeff had a bigger stick. And
we also had big sticks.
Yeah, big sticks seemed to be the name of the game. But so I guess we can talk kind of briefly about our game real quick. We were playing the first round, which was build altars for the gods. I screwed up on round 1 and built an altar that you destroyed. That was a mistake. Probably should have just not built it, but I ended up scoring 2 because I built one on the other side. Neither of us scored in round 2, and then when we got to round 3, you were gonna score.
I set up to score in round 2, and you used a thing to move me off of it. So.
Yeah, I used a blessing to stop you. And I couldn't because I had like sunk in with the IR and what was the thing that whiffed? Something charged one of your central units and just completely didn't do it. Maybe it was the Bounded. I don't know. I remember I lost sort of the center of the board pretty early, and although I ran some Jaguar boyos, the Balam Shapeshifters, over into a piece of terrain in the corner of the board, I was definitely going to score 1 point, but there's no way that you were going to stop me. That you weren't going to stop me because you just had way more units than me. And then, do you remember what your secondary was?
Yeah, so my secondary required me to charge your general. And if I did it with my general, I got an extra point. And I did, after I took control of the center of the board. And
you tied him up with the
Yeah, there weren't many threats there. I have the ability to give him an extra move. So I kind of threw him and then just charged him into your boss, and that was 2 points done.
Yeah. The Aztec game plan of just having a big brick of dudes and the IR that can't die in the center of the board is very strong. My game plan generally is like I have my I'm gonna activate early with my warlord. He's gonna march and follow 3 units with huge Macaweedles that are also
follow is wildly that's crazy. I underestimated how far you were gonna be able to get up the board.
It was like it was a lot, starting from, especially I think this was our only scenario that had a 12-inch deploy, like that was the whole board edge. So a 12 on a 48, just some quick maths. 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay, that's nobody's gonna understand that joke. It's quick maths. Google it. It's hilarious. So 12 inches up the board we start, then I'm going to follow, which means my 3 units of Macaweedles will have their front point an additional 10, which is 20, which is 24 inches, and then they'll be able to either charge within 34, and they just have to have that one guy connect to hit somebody within 34. So if you start out 12, that is 46, which is 2 inches shy of the board. So if you've moved up 2 or more inches and I started across from you, theoretically I can charge you. Or if you want to go 12 plus 10 for a free march and then a move, we're at 29, which is well over half of the board, which means you can build an altar and put it behind you. So they have to kill your whole unit or make you run to be able to charge it. So in build altars for the gods, having a Mayan dude with some tanky boyos, maybe even instead of doing what I did and maxing huge max, just like throw armor on them, I think that could be super viable.
For sure.
But we couldn't customize our list, so I didn't do that. I just built the best all-comers list I could.
Right.
And so Jeff took that game. You got me by a point, but had we had more rounds, you absolutely would have smashed me. You would have probably won 7.
Yeah, the points were actually very tight. It came down to the last turn that we played, which was 3, but I had done enough attrition that I think, certainly if we played further, it would have been more significant just because I gotten the kills in. I was thinking about it afterwards, and I think, I mean, obviously, like you said, you have to build one list, and it has to be for all comers, so it's tough to say. But I think doubling down on the huge max is a good idea in the sense that you're really going to get a lot of kills in, but because you have fewer bodies and they're not like super tanky, if your opponent has a lot of ranged, it's going to be hard to deal with that because you're going to die before you get to use them.
The only counter is that I hopefully will, if they're not going to be able to hit me without moving up, and then I can charge them on the first turn.
Yeah.
So that's like my only hope for any sort of ranged counter attack.
Yeah.
Because if I get into melee, your archer unit's dead. That's just it. There's nothing.
Sure. Yeah,
and that specifically the vicious. If somehow there is like one dude who sticks, unless my unit shows up at half strength, I'm probably killing them even with the 5-mans. So.
Well, that's actually what happened at one point in our game. You charged a unit of my slingers, which is great because they're very dangerous. Yeah. And you killed them down to one guy. But then unfortunately for you, that one guy kind of held that unit up.
Yeah.
Whereas you could have potentially punished some of my important units, but
the math on attacking with a 5-man unit of huge max is not likely to turn against you. Like it's pretty unlikely that'll happen because by the time you get there, you'll have done enough wounds or enough vicious AP that they should be breaking. You're definitely going to get it to attack again, and two 5-man attacks should theoretically kill any 5-man unit. Yeah. On reasonable math, but sometimes you spike it, sometimes you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was our round 1. In round 2, we both got to play people that we don't normally play. Not that we normally play because we were like a couple hundred miles apart, but I've played more games of Mythic America against you. Are the second most games of Mythic America person I've ever played against, because you came over a couple weeks ago and we played a bunch of games. In round 2, I got to play Eric, who ended up winning Best Painted, I think, if I remember correctly, for his
really beautiful
Travel Nations. And he had the super cool like totem pole forest markers for summoning forest, because the Travel Nations are all about forest terrain, and that's what one of their spells that they always have does. And you played Hat Michael, yeah?
Yep.
So how did your game with Hat Michael go? So this was round 2, which is Treasures from the Crux. So there were 3 markers in the center of the board. You had to interact in base contact with those markers, the 3-inch markers, and then get that unit off the board for 1 point each up to 3 times.
Right.
You can get the other 3 points by controlling them at the end game. And also, there's a null magic zone.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I played against Inuit a handful of times. I played like half a game against Hat Michael at your place.
Oh, right. Yeah. I forgot. Yeah, Hat Michael's there. Yeah. But Kevin, who you probably played more Mythic America against than anybody at this point, yeah?
I haven't played very much against him because he still hasn't painted his shit. But so
Kevin, our local buddy Kevin, shout out to Kevin. Kevin plays Inuit, so
yeah, he plays Inuit.
It's like everybody plays Inuit
against him as with his Inuit. So it's interesting. So this scenario, I think I got pretty lucky in the matchups in this tournament, to be honest. The scenario is not good for the Inuit, especially the list that he built, because he has a low number of units and they all have a high number of bodies, which it would be very effective, especially given some of the Inuit special rules where they don't die until the end of the round. But this scenario requires you to run in to A, be pretty mobile, which they're not especially mobile, but B, you want to run in, get the things, and then leave. And when you leave, you can't come back. Yeah. So if you have a 9-man unit of guys and it's like 200 points and you are doing nothing but running off the table, it's giving your opponent a huge advantage in terms of just the attrition of the battle.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
He also, the way that the Inuit get their mobility, and we actually kind of screwed this up when we were playing, but because of the null zones, they get their mobility from some of their magic, and he actually used the magic in the null zone, which he wasn't supposed to be able to do, so we have to kind of rewind a little bit.
Well, I think with bigger units especially, it's really easy because you can target units that are half in. It's only wholly not. So if you can tow one guy out, you can use spells on the unit and then they can move.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't, if they're all the way in, they can't. And if there's like a buff on them when they walk into the null zone, they have to take a brave check, which could crumble your army.
Right.
So you don't do that. But
yeah, so I had my Spider Sisters with a spell that would buff that would give one of my units the ability to be walk 8, which is great. And then I also had the Hummingbird Warriors who have I think is it called Like the Wind?
Yeah,
Something along those lines, where when they march, they get to move 3 times their walk instead of twice.
Yeah, quick as the wind.
Quick as the wind. There you go. So they were basically able to run in, grab a thing, and leave the board.
Yeah.
Which is, again, we didn't finish the game out, so we didn't actually score a ton of points. But because he was sort of focusing on the flanks and then planning to and then having a bunch of his models try to flee, I was able to push up the middle and then basically defend his deployment zone, so he wasn't able to flee off of it.
Oh, no.
And on top of that, I was able to hold the 3 points. So at the end of the game, I got the 3 points for holding the things, and I only got 1 point off from actually collecting the jewels or whatever they are.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, my game was very different. I think Maya are really good at Treasures from the Crux, but I think that Tribal Nation are even better. Mm-hmm. And I was playing against the Tribal Nation player. Maybe the holding at the end is probably pretty tricky for them, but I don't think that if you're building a Tribal Nation list, you shouldn't have a couple Sasquatches, whether they're in one unit, they're going to live forever, and then every other unit can just run off the board with them.
Right.
The null zone does kind of screw them up a little bit for their teleports and for their building forests. But the thing that went really badly for the Tribal Nation player in my game is that I was ever living. I was actually ever living in all 3 rounds, and the Maya have a spell that just requires line of sight, where they choose a point and then give out D3 Brave markers to every unit within 6 of that point. Mm-hmm. And I locked his near whole army in his deployment zone on turn 1 because I got 6 units with 2 or 3 Brave markers on every single one of them, including both of his characters.
Wow.
And I think half of his army froze at the start of turn 1, and some of them didn't unfreeze at the end of the round. Oh. So it was because I just literally I have that's one of the reasons why I like a level 3 Akin Priestess, because I can take her and if I get that, if I go Ever Living at level 3, I guarantee have that spell, and it's 30-inch range. So my opening move is I'll deploy her early, give her a fast die, and in this one you're extra rewarded for being able to deploy early because the scenario gives you a smaller deployment zone, because that's where you have to run off from, but it's right. A 24-inch box, 24 by 6-inch box, centered on the center line. So they can't be very far from that. And of that 24 inches, or is it? It is 24 inches, right? Because it's 6 feet wide board and a foot, 2 feet off.
I think that's right. Side. Yeah.
Yeah. Of that 24-inch box, the units themselves are going to take up 5 or 6 inches on either side, which gives me exactly if I place my spell right, I can hit most of your army.
Yeah.
And because I went first with the priestess, I literally walked her up, used the spell, that was it. And we were rolling. I rolled extremely well, and he rolled pretty poorly on a lot of his unit activation checks. And that was it. I ran in. That being said, we did tie the game. I think had we gone to round 4 and 5, I think there was no question I was going to hold all 3 center points and win. But the position that we were at is that my units had I wasn't able to get back to the center points, so his Sasquatches and a couple of his units that he got in finally, only because I had frozen them, took 2 of the center points for scoring, which is where we tied. I think we both got 1 point from our secondary, and then I got 2 units off the board, or 3 units off the board, and he got 2, and then he had an extra center point on me, so we literally just tied. Nice. And it was a fun game. There was so much back and forth happening, but I think that me trapping him in his deployment zone is really why he didn't just score all 3 points, run away, and then hold 2 objectives with his big boys.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But the Maya had a hard time in this one. And then in round 3, I played Hat Michael and you played my opponent. At this point, I think I was a loss and a draw. You were 2 wins, and Eric was win draw. Right? Does that sound right? Or was Eric? Yeah. Or maybe something like that. So you played Eric. But so we played scenario 3 was Liberators and Captives, which has one single 32 mil base in the center of the board, and each player will assign 2 of them to his units. At the end of the game, you get a point for every captive you have, and then you just get your secondary. So it's a race to the middle to try and get your captive, and it is a sort of a race to not let your opponent take captives from them, but also all the units that have captives have the caveat of they can't be shot or magicked at. So how did your Tribal Nations game go?
Yeah, so this is another one where I feel like the matchup was pretty advantageous. Well, maybe not quite as much as the second round, but I think I had a slight advantage just in terms of the army composition. I was able to, because the IR has 2 activation dice, I was able to kind of move him into the middle and just stop him from getting to the middle captive early on, and then just go in and pick it up. So I was pretty comfortable holding on to the 3 captives, and then it was kind of just a matter of trying to score my secondary, which I had to basically get one of his units isolated and engaged by one of my units, and I had magic that was going to allow me to do that. So I actually chose the Sasquatches, figuring that he would be very aggressive with the Sasquatches. Ironically, the Sasquatches I accidentally made flee early on in the game, so it was a little harder to pull off than I wanted it to be, but I did manage to get a point on it. I kept one of my hostages in a unit of 5 bound dead and just put them in my back line and didn't move them. They just stayed there the entire game, which is the benefit of having very, very cheap units. I don't really miss them. The other one I put in a unit of slingers, and I put them up on a pyramid, figuring they would just kind of be firing Overwatch and they'd still be fairly protected. But because of some of the shenanigans with the positioning, and he was like forcing me to really reposition by summoning new forests in, I actually accidentally exposed them, and then he got initiative on the last turn that we played, which I believe was 3. And he charged the Sasquatches at the unit of slingers and wiped them in one go.
Yep.
So he took my captive. And had the game ended there, we would have tied, because I had a unit on the secondary, or I had a point on my secondary, and he would have had 3 captives and I would have had 2. But I managed to make the Sasquatches flee, and when they fled, they dropped the captive. So they were actually too far away from any humanoid units for me to go claim them. Interesting thing, he actually needed to use a blessing to let the Sasquatches take the captive, because they normally wouldn't be able to. You have to be humanoid.
Yeah,
so,
and they're monsters.
Right, and they're monsters. So I went over with the IR, made the Sasquatches flee and drop the captive, but nobody was close enough that turn to be able to go over and pick them up, unfortunately. So, but I did deny him that point, which allowed me to take the game by 1 point. That was the closest game out of the 3. Funny enough, it was.
Eric was also my closest game in that it was a draw. Wild stuff. My game was a little bit different. I think that you sort of exposed some of the reasons why Inuit struggle in the fast get over the place scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a bit of some nonsense with the Jaguars. So basically, I activated the Jaguars first, or the Balam shapeshifters first, transformed them into Jaguars and kept them just within 6 of my leader, who was the second to activate, and directly opposite the central captive. And then with his follow action, everybody he just walked, and then when he walked, I got a bunch of free movement out of it, but also the Balam shapeshifters in Jaguar form just walked over to the captive, and then even got to walk back a little ways. So I had the central captive immediately, and then I, throughout the course of the game, due to the free movement and Michael making not even a positional mistake, I did the same thing where because I was ever living again, I spammed a thing, and he had an unfortunate, I think it was his 10-man spearman unit, freeze on the first turn. Before, when it went to go activate, I killed almost his whole army and took all 5 captives and scored both of my points for my secondary. And he scored 1 point for one of his secondaries because his shaman walked onto my half and cast a spell. So I beat him 7-1, which is, I think, the most. I think I ended up having the most victory points in the entire tournament because I was the only one who got 7 points ever.
For sure.
In both my other games, I think we were 5-4.
I think we were 4-3. All of my games were very low scoring, and I think they were all a difference of 1 or maybe 2.
Yeah, I think Eric and I tied at 5-5, I think.
Okay, yeah,
yeah.
That's even
And
more.
then I got 7 out of this last one, or 4-4 maybe. So I got 7 out of this last one. And it was like I don't think really it was even anything that he did wrong. It's just a combination of the fact that the Inuit are a little slow. I think the Mayo, especially the follower, just a little faster, and their defense mechanic is good, but it is not particularly helpful against Maya unless you have a whole 10-man unit and can also pass brave checks. And the Inuit don't have bad leadership, but they don't have any like brave stripping mechanics. So when you're going to activate units or take brave checks in combat at like -4 and 5 and 6, there's not really much you can do.
Yeah, and also if you wipe the whole unit, they do die immediately. Yeah. So that's a big...
which happens several times because it's huge max, bro.
Yeah.
And so that was the end of the day. We finished right on time. I think it was about a little bit before 6:30 even.
Yeah, and we actually made really good time, man.
Yeah, and then even though we started the first round like half an hour late, so we jumped everything half an hour, we still end up finishing on time. And then, so Jeff, you came in first place, and you got a free 1,000 points and a $50 gift card.
Dude, we showed up. I showed up in the morning, and I was talking to you, and you were looking over like the event packet, and you were reading it. I had no idea that there was even prizes.
I didn't even know there were prizes either. And
I assumed there would be something, but
there wasn't an entry fee. They didn't charge us to play.
Right. So I figured there'd be prizes, but I figured it would be something fairly modest and whatever. I just wanted to go play. And when you told me at the beginning that the first place prize was 1,000-point army, I was like, that's several $100s worth of toys. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I bought for like $200, I bought 1,000 points of Maya like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. So I picked up a full Inuit army, Inca army, because I've had my eye on them for a while.
I mean, they're rad. So that was first place. In second place, I got a starter force. So I actually swapped with Hat Michael. He wanted to get a Aztec, so I got him an Aztec starter. I got a $25 gift card. Hat Michael came in third. He got a behemoth for me. So I walked away with the Ailish Guardian that I've been wanting. And he got a $10 gift card. And then Eric, who got best painted, was for the same prize as I did, which was a starter force and a $25 gift card. So like they were not playing. And the fact that like second and best painted got the same prize is rad. I love that. You gotta support best painted and like your stuff looks good. My stuff was not done. Mike's stuff was done, but it, is like sort of in progress as he's building up detail and stuff. But Eric's was insane. His whole army was gorgeous. They were really perfectly based. He had extra, like his forest markers were nuts. The wood on his Sasquatch's giant clubs, oh boy. Like meticulously fine detail brush grained. It was they're gorgeous. And that was that. And then they were like, hey guys, come back next time. So I guess let's talk quickly about what is coming up next time, right? So we have a couple of things on the horizon from the Mythic America folks, and I pulled it up to
May
talk
31st.
About. So let's just throw this on the screen if I can remember what chat it's in. Well, I'll just do this because I can look it up. It is May 31st, yeah. So in 2025, we've now completed the first leg of the tournament tour, if you will. The next thing we have is May 31st, which is the starter box tourney happening at Mythicos HQ. So Randolph, New Jersey. I'll throw the address on the screen now, I guess. But it's it's going to be rad. So basically, they're still sort of ironing out some of the details, but I think this weekend they were saying $50 entry fee, right?
Yeah, $50 for a starter force, which is a crazy good deal.
Yeah, which normally I think the starter forces are like at 120, right? Or like
I think their normal price is 120, but they typically go for 100. I don't know if that's like a permanent sale. I've always seen them at 100.
Yeah, I think that might just be their con pricing, but nonetheless.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's at least half off of the normal cost.
And it's like, depending on the army you're taking, that's about half of a full army, which is really good.
Yeah. So it's a huge, and so like you're gonna glue them to bases and start playing games with them that day.
Yep.
We're still sort of helping them, I think, a little bit iron out what the like experience is going to be. I don't know if the plan is to try and get a full 3-round in. I think that's probably unlikely. Maybe it's like a game or two and then like prizes for winning or something. But...
Well, there'll be small games, so that might be doable.
No, maybe that's true. Yeah, and they've already I think ahead of time cleared that if you want to paint one and come and bring that and play with painted models, that's totally fine. There's no problem with that. But like, if you want to jump into Mythic Americas, I know we have a bunch of people in Boston that are going to drive down for it, which is actually pretty reasonable. It's only about a 4-hour drive. If you were thinking about getting into Mythic Americas and want to get a starter box and see the games and meet some of the communities, I think Jeff and I will be there. Maybe Kevin, even.
Kevin is confirmed. Yep. I may have one or two other locals. I haven't talked to Russ yet, but Russ, who also like works pretty closely with the guys and was like did some of their studio paints for them and like made a quick reference sheet and stuff. He's one of my locals. I believe he's going to be coming, but I haven't confirmed that yet.
Rad. We hope that will happen. And then, of course, we have a couple other tournaments to round out the year. So we have a Gen Con tournament in Indy on the 2nd, and then in PAX Unplugged this year in Philly, we'll have that as well. So I think I'll be probably present for both of those.
Yep.
I don't think I'm going to end up playing in the Gen Con tourney because I think I will be working for Weird. But that will be we'll see. Yeah, I mean, like I always volunteer for them. Maybe I can cut that day out. But it's gonna be a great time. I had a lot of fun this weekend. Maya are sick. Huge max for days.
For sure. Just a couple of points on that though. So first off, I don't know. I think me and you haven't finalized our plans for this yet. But if you're somewhere that is not very close to New Jersey and you want to make a trip out of it to come to the tournament, there is some chance that again check back with us, but there is some chance that we will either show up a day early or hang out for an extra day to kind of hang out and get some more games.
Yeah.
So if
that's a good point.
Something that is going to make a difference, if you don't want to travel that far just to play the tournament, but you would consider doing it for a weekend, then reach out to us because it's not super far for us, so there's a fair chance to do that. We did that last time and it was cool.
It was a good time. For Mythic Earth Day. Yeah. And like the best way to do that for sure is get in the Discord. So we'll make sure that we link our Discord and Jeff's Discord below, as well as like check out Jeff's channel. We did some battle reports and he does as much Mythic Earth content as I do, if not more, and quite frankly more.
I have a tournament thing going up tomorrow as of recording. The other thing was, before I forget, I talked to the guys there. I don't know if they want us to talk about this, but I talked about it in my video because I'm going to hopefully force them to do it. I suggested when we were talking about how a lot of people are excited about the starter box tournament, I suggested that they run another normal tournament after the starter box tournament, but before Gen Con to sort of keep getting, keep the hype. Keep the hype going. And also because I know a lot of people that are new are excited for the starter box tournament as kind of like a way in. And if that goes well and a lot of people show up, I think the next tournament could be a much bigger thing. So they seem to like that idea a lot. I don't think there's any definite plans yet, but it seems like early summer there might be another full tournament.
Tune in for regular updates. That's where it's at. It says that on the thing that I'm going to put up on the screen for this part of the conversation. Rad. I think that all in all, it's a fun game. It's got some great theme. It's got some great lore. It's like an largely indigenous owned and run company. The game has some. I mean, obviously, it's like to an extent, it's a bit more fantasy oriented than anything else, right? Because it's not strictly speaking a historical game.
It's somewhere in the middle, I would say, but I would characterize it. From a game perspective, it's more like a fantasy game for sure.
Definitely. But like the historical representation of like indigenous people is off the chart. It's crazy how much lore and research they do. And while we were there, they showed us some of the stuff for the upcoming starter set, which I don't have any photos or stuff to share because it's like not ready yet. But the people of the totem and the Chachapoya, and we got to see a couple of images from them, and holy crap, are they cool looking! It's a good thing Kevin wasn't there; he might have died.
It really sucks that they do this to me because it was hard enough when there were 6 factions for me to pick a faction because they were all cool, and then they were like, "Well, next we're gonna do Taino," and I was like, "Well, there's no chance I'm not gonna have a Taino army because I'm gonna have a Taino army." So now I have a Taino army, and now I have an Incan army because I won it. And then they're showing us the Chachapoya and the people of the totem, and I'm like, oh, they're gorgeous.
Yep.
The armor on the people of the totem is just so sick. It's so unique and interesting looking. And
it's like slat wood,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Super cool.
carved helmets. Yes,
It
it's super
looks
rad.
like something out of a fantasy game. It looks like a weird piece of armor or set of armor you'd find in like a Dark Souls game, but it's real historical armor.
It kind of shouts Forgotten Realms to me.
It's super cool, yeah.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
but yeah, no, it's but I mean that's where they drew the inspiration from, right?
Yeah.
It's super cool stuff. They have a bunch of cool stuff coming out, and they're some of the best folks that I have met or worked with in gaming. So check them out. Check out their website. They do sales periodically, but the starter box tourney is probably the best sale that I can think of. Where in addition to getting to play for a day and hang out and meet the community members, you're getting a starter box for like half off. So fucking come do it, guy.
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, if you already have a starter box, but you haven't like expanded your collection, buying a second starter box for a lot of the factions is a pretty good.
Yeah, I think every faction, especially Tribal Nation. If you're starting Tribal Nations, you probably want 3. That might be. Maybe that's too much of a stretch, but it's absolutely worth it for sure.
Even at the full price, the value is super good to boost out, to bulk out your army. But at $50, it's you can't.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's all I got. So I think if I'm not mistaken, the only thing that is important and left is for us to say goodbye to the internet. Unless you have something you want to plug, Jeff.
We got Colombian food and it was really good.
Oh yeah, right. Oh, we went to. When did we go to? Night of Colombia.
Noche de Colombia, I think it was called. Yeah,
I think that's what I said. Thanks.
Nope, that's not what you said.
All right, well, it's fine. I regret not getting a juice. I got an appetizer that was advertised as something, but what I got was a giant pile of meat, which I continued to eat pieces of for days.
Yeah. The thing about Colombian restaurants that I have found to be true is that they will always give you way more food than you expect, and it'll always be amazing.
Yeah, they like had these tiny like handmade empanadas, and they were ballin'. Cannot suggest Noche de Colombia again. Enough. If you're in northern New Jersey,
I will be a repeat customer for sure.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go back there. Maybe we'll do a dinner there on during the starter box thing.
Yeah,
that place was rad. And I think that was thanks Nelson from Mythicos.
Yes, that was
shout out Lord Mortis. That was his direct recommendation, and it did not disappoint.
Yeah. I will, whether we do a dinner there or not, I will be doing a dinner there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the plan. So hopefully we'll see you guys in a couple months. Like, comment, subscribe, check out Jeff's channel, check out Jeff's Discord, check out our Discord.
Yeah, I actually just, so I have a thing going up about the tournament if you want to know a little bit more about my games, but also this week,
just interviewed the guys.
Yeah, I filmed a conversation. So we first talked about this back in September at Mythic Earth Day, but I had the guys on that write the lore and have developed the universe and everything to talk about that, and it was super duper interesting. So keep an eye out for that in the next few weeks.
Yeah, buddy. All right, I think that does it. Jeff, do you want to say goodbye to the internet?
Goodbye to the internet.
Okay, goodbye to the internet. Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by the planet. You can check out the video description below for all of our important info and links. You can see a link to the Discord if you want to come be nerds on the internet with us. We have channels for like all the games that we're playing and all of our community members are excited about. You can also check out all of our affiliate links for like our Redbubble merch store, our Pro Acryl discount code because they make the best hobby supplies on our planet and yours. And of course, our weird affiliate link if you're buying Malifaux stuff straight from Jonathan Q. Weird himself. Most importantly, though, you can see a link to our Patreon where I post things from time to time, like behind the scenes cuts or early vids, and we even have a tier where I'll bake you cookies and send them to you in real life. Thanks a ton to our current patrons who cover the cost of all of our software to make these videos, and we couldn't do it without them. You can see their names appearing now across the screen. And until next time, goodbye the internet. We did it!